Good morning, everybody. Got the Starlink over there, and I figured I would just give you guys a video of what our experience has been so far using this Starlink. And so, for a little bit of context, my wife and I, we live in the school bus full time, and the majority of the time we're actually boondocking. We're in places that don't have Wi-Fi. We're in places that don't have like water hookups and electrical hookups, stuff like that. So having internet's, kind of important to us. And I'm going to go over a few things that I like and that I don't like about Starlink in this video. And this is specifically about Starlink for RVs. So watch the whole video through, and I hope that this information is useful for you if you're considering purchasing this for yourself. So one of the first reasons I decided to get the Starlink was so that way we could have internet for the laptops. Now I do have a hotspot feature on my cell phone, but when we're boondocking, a lot of times we're in areas that don't have good cell phone service, and the hotspot, I believe, is throttled after a certain amount anyways, so it's not really the most ideal situation. Another deal is that in emergencies where you don't have cell phone signal, you can still set the Starlink up and get a signal out in the middle of nowhere and be able to make like an emergency text out to somebody or try to get in touch with AAA if you need to. So that's just a really great safety feature of us having this. Now, every video that I've seen pretty much has a speed test in it, and I'm not going to do a speed test in this exact location here for you because we've been using this full time for a while now. And one thing that I found out is that speed testing is irrelevant. And what I mean by that is I could have really great speeds in one location, and I could have really terrible speeds in another location. And if I'm in one location for, let's say a day or two, and I'll do multiple speed tests, and sometimes the speed is very high, and sometimes the speed is just okay. And I think that has a lot to do with there's just a lot of people getting this Starlink for RVs, so there's a lot of people on the network. And so what that entails is that the speeds just aren't as good as maybe when it first came out. Now, by all means, the speeds are still good for the majority of the time. In my experience of having this and using it full time for our internet, the speeds have been good. There's only been a couple times when the speed has not been good, and that's because of the number one enemy of Starlink, and that is obstructions. The Starlink needs a clear view of the sky, and as you can tell in this spot, there is this tree up here. Now, because there's that tree up there, that blocks some of the satellite signal, and that actually makes it a bit slower than it normally would be if we were out in the middle of an open field. I have set the Starlink up in trees before, and usually I'll get enough internet to be able to stream some Hulu, and there might be some buffering here and there in that. But as far as for video calls, like Zoom or something like that, I would definitely recommend finding a spot with no trees around so that way you don't get any interrupted service. This satellite dish here is something that I both love and hate about Starlink, and I'm going to tell you why. Because you have to take it out and set it up every time, and that's great because you can find a good location for it. Even if there's trees above your rig, you can just kind of put it out in the open somewhere. But I would really prefer to have the option of having some sort of satellite dish permanently mounted to the top of our rig. So like DirecTV, if you go into an RV supply store, they have a little dome that can go on top of your rig, and that's got a satellite dish in it. I don't want to permanently mount this onto the top because it probably would get caught on some sort of tree branch or something. What would really be cool is if you could have a combination of both. If you park in a spot with open sky, then you could just use it on your roof without having to set up anything. And I would also like to have the dish that I could set up to get better signal if I need it. So I think that combination in the future, if SpaceX was to design something like that, would be a really, really great improvement on this service. Aside from packing up and unpacking the Starlink every time that we want to get internet out here, it's been great. I've really enjoyed it. Having the Starlink has been able to afford us opportunities that we might not have had regardless, like being able to have internet in the absolute middle of nowhere that's actually reliable and good speed. So the equipment cost, that's something that's worth mentioning. It's very expensive. It was like $600 or $700 when I first got it, and it was about $130 a month, somewhere around there, for the actual service itself, which is a bit steep for internet service. But you got to think about it. We park, in the middle of nowhere. You've seen perhaps our camp spot video when we were out in Idaho, and we'll be out in the middle of absolute nowhere and still get good, reliable internet. And when some of your income comes from working online, that's key. And so you can kind of put it as you know a necessity for that and kind of justify it to yourself that way. Would I get the Starlink again? Yes I would. Right now there's probably a lot of people in the network kind of bogging it down, so I might wait a little bit if I had the opportunity again. But then again, it's reliable internet in the middle of nowhere. So yes, I do think it's still a good thing to get, and I do believe that eventually SpaceX will probably put up some more satellites and get rid of that kind of like bottlenecking problem where too many people might be on the service right now. And so looking forward to that, looking forward to hopefully something that I can use while in motion as well, because we can't use this one in motion even if I was to permanently attach it to the roof. So once SpaceX makes some improvements, I think this will be like really top notch. But even right now, without those improvements that I've listed in this video, it's still really amazing to get. And again, this is my experience of using it while living in this bus full time, and having to basically rely on it. So I hope you found this video helpful, and make sure to like it so it gets out to more people. And if you made it this far in the video, consider subscribing. My wife and I, we film videos like this, different things that we like about this lifestyle and different things that we might think need improvement, and just camp spots, things like that we put up on this channel. So make sure you subscribe.